Okay, so slope of a line is m, right? M stands for slope. Is the same thing as rise over run. Is the same thing as change in y over change in x. Is the same thing as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I don't know why I stuttered over that so hard. Okay, we're going to talk about those pieces of it separately. So first we're going to talk about graphs, which we use rise over run for. So your rise is your up and down, yes? And if you go up, it's positive. If you go down, it's negative, correct? Okay, your run is your side to side. If you go left, it's negative, and if you go right, it's positive, yes? So upward or uphill is a positive slope. Downward or downhill is a negative slope. Horizontal is hoi, is a zero slope, right? That's what that zero, or the O in the middle of horizontal, hoi stands for, is zero slope. And then vertical is vux, and the U stands for undefined. Yes? They're so loud. Okay, any questions with that? Okay, so I'm going to show you on a graph. I've plotted 2 points, right, to help you find the pretty points so we can find the slope. So first, I'm going to go down, and I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So I went down 4. And I'm going to go right 1, 2, 3. Now down, is that positive or negative? Okay, and right, is that positive or negative? Positive. So my slope is negative 4 over 3. Does that simplify? No, so there's my slope. Now, if you would have gone from this point to the other point, wouldn't you have just got up 1, 2, 3, 4, which is positive 4, and then left 1, 2, 3, which is negative 3? Wouldn't that still give you a negative 4/3? Yeah. So it doesn't matter which one you do, you'll still get the same answer, yes? Cool. Yes, ma'am.
So, you're basically trying to how far the points are away from each other or something?
You're finding your rise over run. You're up and you're over. Or you're down and you're over. So from here to here, I'm going to go up. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to go right 1, 2. Well, up is positive or negative? Right is, so this is what kind of slope? Yeah, and now look at it. Is this going downhill, downward? And it's negative. This is going uphill, upward, and it's positive. So that matches what we have up here. Yes? Okay, what kind of line is this? A horizontal line, so it's a hoi. What kind of slope does it have then? 0. So your slope is 0. What kind of line is this? Vertical, so it's a vux. So what's your slope here? Pretty much what that means is there is no slope. So think of slope as things that you can slide on or stand on or walk on. Okay, we could climb or slide down this hill, yes? We could walk up, maybe not fun, but you could hike it up, right? Okay, can you walk on this 0 slope? However, can you walk on this? That's why there's no slope. You have to be able to stand or walk or slide on it for it to be a slope. So you wouldn't be able to do that here, that's why it's undefined. Yes? Okay, so knowing that, now we're going to look at 2 points. So when given 2 points, you're going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2, and its slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, yes? Okay, so if I am given 2 points, I'm going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2. Now, I could have labeled this point 2 and this point 1. It doesn't matter. Just make sure you stick with it, yes? And I'm going to follow my equation. What's my y2? minus, what's my y1? Are we okay with that? What's my x2? Minus, what's my x1? Now, I want you to realize, see how this point 2, negative 3? See how the 2 and the negative 3 line up? If they don't line up, you didn't plug it in correctly. See how this is negative 1, 5? See how the negative 1 and 5 line up? If they don't line up, you didn't plug it in correctly, okay? Well, what's negative 3 minus 5? Negative 8. And what does 2 negatives make? My freshman last year called it a broken plus sign.
Yeah.
Is that what y'all learned?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's your broken plus sign. What's 2 plus 1? 3. Does that simplify?
No.
So there's your answer. Now, once you get to this point, could you have just typed it in your calculator?
Yeah.
Alpha y equals enter, negative 3 minus 5 over 2 minus negative 1. Did it give me the exact same thing? Yes. So you can, if you don't like doing that part by yourself, your calculator can do it for you. All you got to do is plug it in. Yes? Okay, so I want y'all to try number 2 while I take attendance really fast. Okay, so you'll label them x1, y1, x2, y2. So what's my y2? What's going to be on top?
2. 4 negative.
4 minus negative 2, which gives me a broken plus sign, yes. And then what's going to be on bottom?
2 minus negative 1.
Which also gives me a broken plus sign, which ends up with what?
2.
Well, 6 over 3, which simplifies to 2. Yes. Any questions with that? Okay, so let's look at this one. I'm going to tell you a secret first. It's not really a secret. I don't know why I said that. Okay, it's okay to have 0 on top. It is not okay to have 0 on bottom. Yes? Okay? No. Yes? That's my secret to remembering where 0 is allowed to be. If 0 is on top, it just equals 0. If 0 is on bottom, it's undefined. If you type anything divided by 0 in your calculator, 8 divided 0, what happens?
Error.
Error. Divide by 0. It's not possible. That's why it's undefined. It's not a real number. Yes? Okay, so that's what we know. So knowing that, if I label this x1, y1, x2, y2, I'm going to get y2 minus y1, which is 1 minus 1, over x2 minus x1, which is 3 minus negative 3. What's 1 minus 1?
0.
And what's 3 minus negative 3? 6. And what's anything divided, or 0 divided by anything?
0.
So my slope is 0. So what kind of line is this? A horizontal. It's a whole line, which means it's a y equals equation. Well, look at your points. What did y equal both times? 1.
Oh, 1.
So if you had to come up with your equation, it's just y equals 1. Okay, so now let's find this one. x1, y1, x2, y2. So we have 6 minus 2 over 4 minus 4. What's 6 minus 2?
1.
Over 4 minus 4?
0.
And is that possible?
No.
So what is it?
Undefined.
And knowing that this is a Vux equation, which means x equals, well, what does x equal on both of the points? 4. So if you had to come up with the equation, it would just be x equals 4. I know it didn't ask for that, but I want to show you that if the x is matched or the y is matched, it's obviously a Hoy or a Vux. Yes? Any questions with this? Okay, flip to the back. The back looks like a lot, but it's really not. Equations freak you out for some reason. Do not let them. Okay, you'll notice the first 3. What form are they in? We love slope-intercept form, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, in graphing especially. And why do we love it? You could type in your calculator. Yes? That's why I love it. Maybe I'm weird. Okay, I like it because I can type in my calculator. But we know y equals mx plus b. What does m stand for? Slope. And what's always touching my slope? The x. So is y alone?
Yes.
Yes. What's touching my x? What's x touching? 3 over 4.
Wait, is that the answer?
That's your slope? Yeah, all we're doing is looking for slope.
Oh.
Yeah, we're not like solving anything or doing anything. We're just looking for slope. So what's your slope on this guy?
-2 over 3.
Yeah. Now, does it matter that it wasn't first? No, it just, the x is what tells you what the slope is, right? Now look at this one. What's wrong with it?
Oh, it's negative?
It's negative y. We have to get rid of that because y is not alone. So how do I get rid of that negative?
Divide.
I could divide by -1. And now I have a positive y equals, well, it's 5 divided by -1. So negative 5x, and 2 negatives makes a?
Positive.
So if you notice, didn't everything just become opposite?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's a secret. If you make everything opposite, that's okay. And what's your slope now?
-5.
Perfect. Any questions with those? Okay, now let's look at standard form. We've been doing standard form, yes? What do we know about standard form equations and how to find slope?
Don't you do like the 3x, the 3 and the 0? Oh.
Opposite of A over B.
I thought you put the 0 thing.
What's the opposite of 3?
-3?
Over what's B?
Positive 4?
No, exact.
-4?
And 2 negatives makes a?
Positive. Oh, so you flip the top, but keep the...
Flip the A, keep the B the same. So what's the opposite of A?
-5.
And what's exact B?
2.
Does that simplify it all?
No.
Any questions with those?
No.
On this one, it was negative B. See how B was -4? So A was positive, so we put a negative. B was negative, and 2 negatives makes A. So all we did was simplify it. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so special cases are these guys. Well, what kind of line is this? No. Vertical, it's a Vux. Vux, which means what's your slope? I know these are on here a bunch, but these are, I feel like, what mess people up a lot. So that's what we're talking about. And what about this guy?
That's a Hoy.
And what's your slope?
0.
Perfect. Okay, last section. Parallel versus perpendicular. What do y'all remember without looking?
Parallel lines never cross.
Parallel lines never cross because they have the same what?
They have the same
Slope. So same slope, never intersect. Okay, the slopes will always be exactly the same. But what's not the same? The y-intercept. Different y-intercept. Which we'll get more into later, but it's just a good conversation. Okay, what about perpendicular lines?
They always cross.
They always cross, but they always cross at what kind of angle? They make a perfect angle, a 90-degree angle. So it's not just that they touch. They can't just touch. They have to touch perfect, yes? And the way we know that, we call them opposite reciprocals. So the first, this line says, say it has a slope of 4. Well, if I had to make 4 a fraction, isn't that just 4 over 1? Because we like slopes as fraction, right? And then opposite, what's the opposite of a positive? Negative. And then reciprocal means flip. What's this flipped? So that would be your perpendicular slopes. Positive, negative, flipped. Yes? So that's what negative reciprocal or opposite reciprocal, I usually say opposite reciprocal means. Yes? Just means opposite sign flipped. So knowing that, we're going to look at these 3 and we're going to decide which one's parallel, which one's perpendicular, and which one's neither. Yes? So we have to find slopes. What's the slope of this first equation?
Negative 1/5 over.
Okay, and what's my slope of this bottom equation?
2.
Opposite of, this is x and y on the same side. Be careful.
Oh.
So opposite of A over B, what does that simplify to? Negative 1/5. Do they match?
Yes.
So what are these lines?
Parallel.
Parallel. So one of them was in slope-intercept form, and that's how we found our slope for so fast. The other one was in standard form. Yes?
If you wanted to, you could put these like in the calculator.
I mean, standard form, you'd have to solve for y to type in the calculator. So you could, but you'd have to solve for y first. It depends on what kind of work you want. Okay, on this first one, these are both in standard form. So opposite of A, what's the opposite of 1? Over B, which is just negative 1, correct? Okay, and the bottom one is, what's the opposite of negative 1? Over 1, which is just positive 1. So are they opposites? One's negative, one's positive, yes. Are they reciprocals? If you flip 1 over 1, is it still 1 over 1? So they are reciprocals. I put this one on there because it's weird. It's not as obvious as like one like this one that we did. It's weird, and that's why I wanted to do it with y'all. So it is actually perpendicular. I have to like sound out that word every time I spell it. It's a terrible word. Because, so look, the first slope is negative 1 over 1, and the second one is positive 1 over 1. Well, one's positive, one's negative, which is a have to, right? And the other have to is they have to be flipped. Well, if I flip this and put one on the bottom and one on top, is it still the same? So ones are weird. It's not as obvious as it was with like 4 and 1/4, right? But that's why I wanted to do that one with you, because ones are weird. Okay, last one. What's my slope of the top?
3.
Negative 3 over 1, which is just negative 3. And what's my slope of the bottom?
Negative 2 over 3.
Are these opposites?
Yes.
Well, they're both negative, so no. Are they the same?
No.
So these are neither. They're not the opposite, they're not the same, they're not reciprocals, so it's nothing. They're just two lines. They'll touch because they don't have the same slope, but they're not going to touch at a perfect angle. Does that make sense? Okay, that was your notes for the day.